It's time to get controversial with my opinions while we explore something that I think very few people have been considering given these times. So let's begin. I've decided to record this video for a while already, and sometimes the idea of recording a video for me does not yet get solidified, and that's for a series of reasons that I don't understand, but it just doesn't go that way. And right now, it just dawned to me because all the pieces that I have been thinking have come together, at least from my perception. So let me start this video by saying that one, I'm just going to freestyle everything that's coming through my mind as I analyze and connect several dots that have been popping out in my reality, in the way I see things. And that sure is going to be controversial because there seems to be a divided world once again. And it seems to be that there's two banners that people are subscribing to. So as I go through it, I have a lot of things that I have considered in the past that I have been a part of, and I'm going to analyze certain things that you must be familiar with. Let's start with the recent events of the new savior that has been published, posted, displayed to the global politic arena. And little parenthesis here, it's interesting to note that none of us, nobody that I actually can talk to, agrees that politics or governmental actions are actually something benevolent and they are not corrupt. So everybody agrees that following anything that politicians do is an illusion, it's fake. What amazes me is that in the past 4 years or so, we've gotten some strange fanatism, zealotrism when it comes to politics. And there's a reason for that. We have to go back to the deep state and the secret government that I have talked about in my recent series, The Great Awakening. And we'll touch on that a little bit at the end because I cannot do a video that doesn't have a positive ending. And especially now, it's so much needed. Well, let's get into the dark part and the pits of it and the obscure nature of what we're going to explore once again. And I'll repeat it before I start. This is just my perception. I don't want you to subscribe to it. I want you to just think about it and think about the possibilities. Don't subscribe to anybody. Okay? Well, this is my channel. You can do that now. So, talking about the government itself and seeing that there is a deep state, this has been shown and it has been revealed to the public in the past 4 years. This is why the ex-president Trump was so adamant in talking about draining the swamp and doing all this kind of work against the so-called deep state and exposing all of it. Now keep that in mind that this was actually accomplished. The fact that a lot of people woke up and took that red pill that everybody is waiting for and afraid of at the same time means that a great deal of the population actually was exposed to that. And they realized that this is something true. But keep that in mind. We're going to go into that in a little bit, a couple of minutes after I'm done with this part of the deep state and the effect that has caused on the population of the world. And this great awakening, which is, it's not part of the real awakening that is happening. And once again, I hate to keep saying that. I'm going to say that later, but keep that in mind too. This is not the great awakening, at least from my exploration right now. But let's keep going. So Trump came into power and he created this movement. There was something which is has been banned already, and it's all part of the plan as well. This Q phenomenon that came out and started creating in the population this idea that something or someone is actually working behind the scenes, and that it's going to be the savior of our country, of our world. Now, Again, I would love to think that this is true because everything that has been portrayed is something that resonates with anybody who is into the physical awakening of this reality. If you don't know what I mean by physical awakening, you have to go watch my crash course on the Great Awakening and you'll see what I mean. So, awakening to this physical reality is something that was needed in the population, and this was accomplished for the past 4 years. The thing is that if we explore it in a different way and we don't take sides, as right now is the case, this savior, the ex-president of the United States, and the one that exposed this cabal, actually created a good movement for people to know this. However, it caught into its nets to the idea that there is an external savior to our predicament in this world as it is right now. That creates, of course, dependency on someone or something external. And very little people, me included at the beginning of last year, when I started getting into this, very few people actually doubted that this was a possible game from the deep state as well. How does that connect if they're exposing themselves? Well, think about it. If they are exposing themselves, isn't that something that they may want to do? Because we know this predictive programming where, and this is part of the whole secret agenda that we all know about, this is something that could be true. They need to expose themselves so the people acknowledge them, and now they can do things with their consent, which is exactly what's happening right now. We have, once again, a big division in the world because there are those who are anti-official narrative, which is okay, but there are those who are now on the other side of the narrative who are asking for this. So on one side, we have those who are against the official narrative, but are depending on something external for the salvation of this world. And there are those who are asking for the salvation of this official narrative. Since we're divided, what does that leave us with? Us fighting against each other. Us divided into our thoughts, our emotions, how we feel about other people. And this has started to creep up like a cancer in social media, in our families, everywhere. This is nothing new. This is just the oldest trick in the book of manipulation for control and power. So very few people might have thought that this Q movement, the Trump administration, and all the things that happened could have been a inside job to create this idea that people were going to be saved by this one person, by this one alliance, by this one group of people, these white hats, that I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that's not a possibility. I would hope so. And it would be very interesting for the show that is happening. They also took the phrase, the Great Awakening, of something that's happening, which is true. But they're, once again, twisting this narrative of the Great Awakening to mean something very superficial. So once you go down this exploration of connecting the dots of how this works, think about the people disempowered right now on one side, those red pillars, who are disempowered right now because their savior is no longer able to help them out. He's out. And now there's another person who is going to accelerate and speed up this agenda. Very spooky, very strange, very scary, in fact, that this is happening for all those red pillars. So now we have people in fear and cringing on what's happening because their savior is no longer there. So they're going to continue fighting, again, another war, even if it's just virtual or if it's physical in protest or whatever it is. But there is a war against those blue pillars, those who have been, and it's funny, right, that there is actually a resemblance with the blue pills being those of that side of the current president, and those red pillars are actually the red color of the Republicans, basically. Isn't that interesting? So again, those blue pillars are now asking for all those things that the official narrative has been putting out there for them to feed on, whether that be the dreaded word with V that nobody wants to get in their arm, rightly so, or anything else because of this obvious game that they have been playing. So exploring this in this way, you realize that there is no savior, that there's nothing that's going to save you. And we're going to get into that part in a little bit when I talk about the actual Great Awakening, what it actually means to be awakened, and what it actually means to be somebody who is a light worker. It's not fun, I tell you that. But just to keep exploring all this, think about what this whole red pill, I'm going to call it red pill movement, started with, and creating, of course, a lot of awareness. All the awareness that was created is just to expose those things, but nothing happened. And this is just typical of everything that is plays for people to play with and think that something is happening. I lived this in my own country. For those who don't know, I come from Venezuela, which is a country which has decayed to its maximum possible expression. I don't need to get into those details, but I live that transition into having a certain part of the population believe that they were being saved by this one figure who was there in power. And then there was this massive amount of people who were called, of course, they weren't called red pillars, but same idea. They knew what was happening, but they couldn't do anything about it. And they were fed both sides, things that would keep them going, so they would continue to believe that there was something that's going to happen. Never happened. Go check it out. Google my country. We'll see what I mean. Same thing is happening here. And the key thing is to know that people are still looking for salvation outside of this. And I'm not going to get religious on you. Definitely not. I'm not going to get even spiritual on you because that's not the point. I'm going to get real on you because that's the point of this, is for you to explore these possible dots that, if connected, so we know that we have been played fools once again by following any sort of agenda outside of our own nature. This means that everything that has happened, we need to wake up to that and say, even if I'm wrong, even if it's not true, you will find a huge amount of experience and lessons by not subscribing to any side of the red or the blue pills, because those are not going to be your saviors. Sure enough, I'm not going to discard the idea that there is, of course, a benefit into knowing what is it out there that exists. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? Is it going to be this meme war that it was exposed? I mean, just think about how ridiculous this is for the expansion in consciousness that needs to happen in this planet. For all of you who follow me in the Law of One and in the metaphysical work, think of how absurd that is. We're investing our energy and our time into creating a possible awareness. If 2020 showed us anything about population, is that no matter how hard you try to wake up somebody who is in a self-induced asleep, it's not going to happen. You're wasting your energy there. The only way to make people realize what you're living and thinking is to shine it yourself, but not impose it on others. And this is the ways of this new war of the red against the blue. Once again, I'll repeat it, divided. They keep dividing us and we keep biting their bait because that's all we do. And we keep thinking that there's going to be an external salvation. All right, two more positive notes. What does this all mean? Are we all doomed? Possibly, but it all depends on you. Here is where you actually need to get real on yourself. It doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be anybody else. You just have to get real on yourself and say, what kind of reality do I want to manifest? Because we have been kept hidden our true nature of who we are and how we create this reality, and know the true nature of being a creator in this skin, in this third density experience that we have right now. We don't know how to act. We don't know how to defend ourselves from all the external illusory stuff that's being thrown at us. And it's making us just create even more this reality, because we either live in fear or we live in this victory over hate, which is another thing. All those blue pillars that are enjoying the victory of their new savior have done so based on hatred, because all that has been created, whether fake or real, it has been based on hate of a figure who might be a sociopath and not the savior that keeps being shown on social media as the person that's going to help us drain the swamp. Didn't happen. And just the whole idea of thinking that people have been either putting all their faith in another human being or putting all their hatred on another human being to get a sense of victory, to get a sense of realization, it's actually depressing for the human being, because it doesn't acknowledge the true nature of who we are. So by doing that, we realize that we are alone. In fact, we have always been alone. And that is the purpose of this. The purpose of this reality, which is an illusion, is a dream of where we're doing here. The metaphysical reality is the real one. How many of us are so into it that we know that this is just a fake idea of who we are? It's just a series of experiences that makes us learn who we are, makes us learn more about our nature. When we go to that, we realize that nothing that happens outside of us is going to affect us, but you truly have to live it. You truly have to believe in this, and you truly have to put all your 100% faith that this is who you are. Because the moment you take that 1% and put it outside, you're playing the game, which is fine. Nothing that happens here would do anything to you. But if you're going to live a life of conflict, anxiety, depression, confusion, and all the negative emotions, you may want to rethink your life. And you may want to say, which is totally fine again, you can go down that road. As I say, that's your privilege. But for those who are seeking true reality, which is only coming out of here, of your heart, and showing who you are, those of you who are seeking that may want to explore even deeper into what this whole reality actually means to you and how you want to navigate it. Do you want to navigate it on the blue side? Go ahead. You want to navigate it on the red side? Go ahead. But the only way, or the true way to do this, is from here. At least the one metaphysical. The rest, you're just playing the game. And so my conclusion to this is to show you that there is a truth inside of us. And that's the real light shield that everybody needs, or that anybody could use at this point. Because that light shield is your own faith and your own belief in that this reality is being created by you and no one else. And that's how you get rid of the external influence that will always trick you, because sure enough, that deep state exists, all the secret government exists, there is an agenda for sure on this planet, but you cannot be shielded by somebody else defending you. You can only be shielded right now, metaphysically, by your own shining. This is actually the Great Awakening. Nothing that they tell you externally is true in the sense of Great Awakening. It's expanding your consciousness. It's expanding your awareness, sure enough. But a Great Awakening, the real Great Awakening, is happening inside of you as you connect all the dots and you realize that you are the creator of this reality, not of the whole reality. That's why we have a collective consciousness. We're all a social complex, as it's explained by Ra in the Law of One. This social complex creates this reality collectively. But we all know that everybody else is creating a different reality. You are creating your own individual reality, and this is how you get shielded from everything else that's happening if you're afraid. Which again, you don't have to be afraid. All you need to do is trust. All you need to do is go with the flow of life and enjoy the things that happen. Whether that be good or bad, depending on your perception, that's all you. But getting deeper into this metaphysical reality of who you are is really what's going to save you. Not me, nobody else, not the collective, not the social complex that we are, but you. And you will continue to live this life in a much better way. So I had to say this because it was just flowing through me as I started thinking about everything that's happening right now. And I could say a lot more of everything else, but I tell you, think about the possibility that you have been fooled by the red pillars. You have been fooled, obviously, by the blue pillars. And that everything has been just a way to enhance the power and control and what is called predictive programming, by letting you know ahead of time what they're going to do, and have half of the population, if anything, believe in this and also contribute with their own fears, because fear is really what empowers those right now controlling the system. So the more you add fear to this, the more you're empowering them. The more you trust yourself, and the more loving you are, and the more strict you are with your own convictions of who you are, then the more power you take away from them, because you are very, very powerful. And with that, I leave you. Thank you so much for watching and understanding this. I hope you go down to the rabbit hole of your own heart and find what's true right now, because I don't think this is going to be an external salvation. Not unless we do it ourselves individually and shine it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.